John Mutchler here, and this is an outsider's inside look on our Ferndale city government. And it was in September of 1998 that the citizens of Ferndale voted to change our government. We changed it from what was called and still called a council manager form of government to a mayor council form of government. What did it mean that we had a council manager form of government? It was pretty simple. First of all, the citizens of Ferndale did not elect a mayor. Now, we had a mayor, but he or she was not elected. What happened was this, that the citizens would elect a council, a 7-member city council, and then the council would meet at their first meeting after an election, and they would choose from among their membership, from among their number, one of them to act as the city's mayor. His responsibilities were exactly the same as a council member. He or she could vote on council business. He did not have any veto power, but he represented the city to the public, and he or she also presided over city council meetings. That was called the weak mayor system. I prefer to call it a ceremonial mayor system. But in 1999, following that election, we then had a government whereby the citizens elected the mayor. It's called a mayor council form of government, also called a strong mayor form of government, or what I prefer to call an executive mayor form of government. And so the citizens elect the council and elect the mayor. This comes out of the RCW. That's the Revised Code of Washington. That's basically our state's rule book that provides for us a template on how we can run and operate as a government. There are some 200 what's called code cities operating this way in the state of Washington. They operate on this template provided by the government. And it's, by the way, if you want to look it up, it's easy to find. It's section 35A. That is section 35A. Just search RCW 35A, and you can find the code section in our state law for cities. Of these some 275 cities in the state of Washington, 200 of them are code cities. About 3/4 of them, 150, operate under the mayor council form of government, and some 50 of them, about 1/4 of them, still have the council manager form of government. In the council manager form of government, the council will hire what's called a city manager. That's why it's called the council manager form of government. The city manager is a professional person. He's sort of like the chief executive officer of the city corporation. To run the day-by-day operations of the city, he or she needs to be highly trained and skilled to run a city in the complexity of our current laws and circumstances. So, city manager form of government. So what happens in the council mayor, or the mayor council form of government? Well, the mayor is elected. He usually, and in most cases, will hire or retain a city administrator who's much the same as a city manager, but he's answerable not to the council, but to the mayor. The mayor in a strong mayor city like Ferndale, an executive mayor city, has broad oversight over all city functions, over all the major departments: the police department, the public works department, the finance department, the planning and land use department. He has broad oversights over all those departments, and he or she is the one that hires and sometimes fires department heads. And this illustrates how our government works, much like the federal government, which has 3 branches. We learned this in 8th grade civics. We have the executive branch, the president. We have the legislative branch, or the lawmaking branch. That's the House and the Senate. And finally, we have the judicial branch, or the court system, the 3 branches. Cities like Ferndale have the same thing. The executive branch would be the mayor and his administration. The legislative branch would be the lawmaking or the policy making or the ordinance making part of the government. That's the city council. And then finally, the judicial branch would be our court system that gets involved occasionally, either at Superior Court or something that we have called the hearings examiner. The hearings examiner is basically a judge who handles issues between the city and usually property owners or developers. Interpreting what our code says and what it means would be the responsibility of the judge. So we're the same branches of government as the federal government does: executive, legislative, and judicial. And here's the main point. There is what's called the separation of powers at the federal level and at the city level. And the most important thing for both the mayor and the council to realize is that you have separate powers and responsibilities, and it's really important to stay in your lane to avoid conflicts and problems and an inefficient government. And so if you want to learn more about the council manager form of government, you look up RCW 35A.13, or if you want to explore our current form of government that we've had since 1999, you'd look up RCW 35A.12. And again, since that time, we have elected 5 mayors to serve the city of Ferndale. Both the council and the mayor serve for 4 years, at which time they can, if they wish, run again, and there are no term limits. Should a city wish to have term limits, it would then need to change to what's called a home rule or a charter form of government, which basically means they craft their own pattern of government that they wish to have. Bellingham happens to do that. In the city of Ferndale, council members are what we call at-large. They serve the entire city. Unlike Bellingham and unlike Blaine, we do not have wards or districts. We have not divided the city up into smaller units for council members. So theoretically, all 7 council members could be from the same neighborhood, and I guess even from the same household. They do not have to live in a certain place. They do have to live in the city limits. They have to live at least 1 year in the city up until the time of the election, and they have to be registered voters at the time of filing for election. Filing period for council seats and for mayor position are in May, in an odd number of years. So the next election cycle will be in the year 2021. May is filing time. If there are more than 2 candidates filing for any position, there will be a primary vote in August, and that whittles 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many candidates down to just 2 that will show up in the general election, which will happen in that odd number year in November, the Tuesday following the first Monday. The Tuesday following the first Monday in November. After that election, typically they start serving the first of the new year. In Ferndale, we will have 3 council members up for re-election or election in the year 2021. That would be positions number 5, 6, and 7. And then 2 years later in 2023, positions 1, 2, 3, 4. And additionally, the mayor will be up for re-election. That's how that works. Sometimes we'll have more than 3 or 4 council positions on the ballot. We did this most recent election a year ago. We had 6 positions. That's simply because we had 2 council members retire early, and that put those positions on the next ballot. And so, my friends, that is your government. You have a mayor, a strong executive mayor, and a city council of 7 members who serve at large. If you want to know more, there are some great resources, and I highly recommend the website called MRSC.org, MRSC. And if you were to search MRSC, Mayor Council Member Handbook, there's a fabulous 100-page document that's easy to read that describes our own form of government and how it works. You can also go to the RCW. It's also easy to find. Just search RCW 35A.12 and you can study all the intricacies of our current form of government that we have. And so in future videos, we're going to talk about our city's budget, revenues, how we have money to run things, and what that budget might look like. And we'll also talk a little bit about how you can be involved, how you can have influence and involvement in the Ferndale city government. There are a lot of things that you can do, and we'll talk about some of those in future videos. And if you have subjects that you like to be addressed in these videos, again, they're meant to be sort of an outsider's inside perspective on our city government. Just list some of those topics and we will do the best that we can. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that, and have a great day.